Okay,
Yeah, this is Bill Levada speaking. We've got a bill that's in question that come in our commissioners vouchers from Ziegler and 18,346.27. What is that for? And we don't get that. We just get what's on the voucher. Just custom repair. No. That don't come from this packet. So you don't know. I can call Tyler.
okay, we're gonna call a meeting in order at 9:01 and we'll stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe there's one addition under human resources. I believe Maya, the emergency manager, is coming in.
Yes.
So we'll add Maya Ulrich to that section there. Is there any other additions? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
We should add emergency management HR offices. I think we talked about it, but we never formally approved. We put that under with Carl's.
Okay. Emergency manager, HR offices.
Yep.
Okay, any other additions? Motion then to approve the agenda with the additions.
So
Second,
second.
discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the meeting minutes from 9/3.
Yeah. No, I came to social services and now will try to get a copy of the information for you. That's great.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
The motion, is there a second?
I'll second
You. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who was the second on that?
Go ahead.
Carried. The warrants, Bill was working on a question on one of them, that repair Ziegler.
I didn't get an answer because I hung up on her.
Who you calling?
Beth.
Oh, Beth, yeah.
So that on the date, one dated at our 9/3 meeting, that Ziegler bill, I'm looking back at the warrants. engine replacement for that 16,941 with the two back on 9.3, so it is a different.
Shade. Yeah, the other didn't sound right. I tried to call her again and I didn't get any answer.
Maybe we could call to the auditor and see what
How about Matt, do you try Matt?
It's a Pat thing, is what it is.
You tried Pat?
Yeah, again.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what's this bill from Ziegler for 18,346.27? What is that?
Not a clue. I guess that's for the motor on the skid loader.
We did that last month.
I don't know, I don't deal with them bills. That's Tyler's world.
Okay, all right.
So, all right, you got a number?
I do.
All right, man.
The answers are on
Your call has been for.
Question for you. What's the bill from Ziegler's for 18,346.27? That ain't a double bill from the engine from last month, is it? It's a custom repair. What is that? You submitted it, correct? Yeah, I don't see that. We just get a voucher. Okay, so how, how much was that engine that went in that skid loader again? You remember?
16 something.
It was like 16,000 something, and now there's an $18,000 bill. Yeah, that's. Yeah, it might get you in at a bad time or what? Are you in the middle of something?
I wonder if WSB, if that
Well-
County Road 10 engineering, or we hired them for other stuff.
Oh,
I didn't get ahead of it, I didn't see it.
That's-
I called you yesterday,
That would
got to the
be,
bottom of it,
yeah, that wouldn't be anything else.
so. That was a repair on one of the blades or something, or a truck or something. Well, 18 grand, that ain't a double bill on that engine, that's what we're asking.
So Matt,
Okay, all right, sounds good, I'll let you go.
Yep.
Matt's here. Yeah, well, that's what we did last month, that's why we're wondering what this is. Yeah. Yeah, I talked to Beth and then I had to hang up because we started the meeting. If you can, that'd be great, give me a text back or, so then I can tell, okay? All right, thanks.
there's two questions on the warrants. One would be that $18,346,000 bill for Ziegler's. And usually we hear that's for the skid loader motor, but that was last month at 16,000 something, so. It's. It just says custom repair, doesn't reference a motor or anything.
Oh, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, and then he was trying to, the other question I had then, WSB, there's 3 bills totaling 13,200, would that be? The rest of County Road 10, or we,
Well, there were some bills that for some reason didn't get paid. Back in.
prior, and that's,
They got through the cracks, but
but that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
You're talking the 13,200?
Yeah.
And 50. So the last one must have been 4,000. But you telling me that what, it fell through the cracks on the 3950 and the 5248?
yeah, there was a billing from April that went up to June as well. For some reason, didn't get included in the previous.
so. How do we wanna handle, do we wanna approve the bills, wait, accept that Ziegler one, waiting for a response, or what's your suggestion?
I would say let's wait for a response on the Ziegler one.
Come back to it. or-
Yeah, we can pass them at any time during the meeting.
I got a question though, when these vouchers get submitted to the auditor, there's probably more information than what's on here. Maybe we could get a hold of the auditor and see if they can look up that number and see what they've got.
He might be listening. Is he on? Chad on?
Chad is on, he was in the middle of another project, so
Yeah.
just probably on in the background.
Yeah, the invoice is included with the bills.
Right.
And we don't get that.
Say, Chad, are you listening?
So they're concerned
Yeah.
just that
What?
The board is wondering about Ziegler Inc. in account 03341, 6596. They're wondering what's the remaining balance on the 18,344. Is there a way that you could take up or pull that up and see the invoice and see what it's for?
It's 65,
I
69,
can see if we have the invoice, but highway should have it.
I called Beth.
They send it all up to me, so, but I can ask Hillary if she's got it. But, yeah, they just send us a batch and then all the backup for us, but I'll see.
is there concern just there would be a double bill on the engine?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, we can approve these, that if Matt approves, it's not a double bill to just pay it. And if it is a double bill, he'll hold it out.
okay, is there,
I'll make that motion.
motion to pay both sets of warrants then, is that understanding, is there a second?
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Get 2 extra minutes. Matt? Two 2024 budget amendment.
Morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Are you guys, what, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hillary just pulled up what we get from highway and it said it wasn't an invoice, it was a statement of some billing from July, what was it, July 10th, Hillary, I think? Yep. We get what happens with the bills from highway is they enter them in highway department. And we get a batch and then they get sent up to us as part of the batch in our financial system. And then they send us all the backup that goes with the check. So this was a statement that's from July 10th. There was no actual invoice attached to it, just said custom repair balance or something like that. So you'll have to, I see Matt's there now, you have to ask the highway department for the original billing.
It's a combination of invoices then, is what he's saying,
Most be.
which it must be approved. Thank you, Chad. Okay.
Are the bills all passed now?
But
Yeah,
that,
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. What I handed out to you is for a 2024 budget amendment. On the first page I gave you, the issue comes in Fund 320, the construction. Highlighted in yellow. So on this first page, the two numbers in yellow are incorrect. On the second page, you'll see at $4.86 million in yellow. That was transferred over onto the first page of the spreadsheet. And it was incorrect. It was supposed to be the one in green, the 605131877. And on the final page would be the correct 2024 budget, the numbers that changed highlighted in green.
the 5.9 versus 6 million. 5.988, like versus 51.
At the end of the day, the 320 construction document should read $6051318.77 for a total 2024 budget of $9,423,000.22. So we're just looking to amend the budget to show the correct number as opposed to the wrong number that was shown on the front page. It's not gonna affect costs or anything because these were all for projects and all those projects will be next year's payments.
so we will. Will we be, you're asking us to approve the amendment, which then would be part of the later discussion when we talk about the preliminary budget?
That'd be the 2025 budget.
Yeah, this is 24.
Oh,
This is this year's.
This is an amendment.
Okay, I'm in the wrong year. Thank you for getting me back into reality there. So, I guess, the numbers are in front of us and I don't know if it requires any additional explanation. It is what it is and you're telling us. And so I would ask for a motion to correct the 2024 budget as Matt's recommended.
I'll make that motion as a member of the highway committee, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Additional discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ooh.
Okay, I'll say something. At AMC last week, I sat in on the transportation and infrastructure committees. And their big three things that they're gonna push forward are state bonding, since it didn't happen last year, which would include local road improvement plan, bridge bonding, local road wetland replacement. All those are included in the bonding. Some of them haven't, like wetland replacement for Bowser, that's been funded once in the past 3 years, and in about 3 years, they'll probably be out of credits altogether, so then we'd have to buy them all on the open market, which you'll see the cost skyrocket, so it's kind of important to get the bridge bonding funds done. The other item of concern was the reduction of greenhouse gas and vehicle miles traveled. It's kind of a difficult item to explain. It's not really gonna affect us, since we're not doing expansion of our transportation network. That would be more for cities and counties that are seeing growth. that would have to mitigate any kind of increase in greenhouse gases. Right now, it's only on, I believe, trunk highways that it's planned for, but there is language in there that it could eventually be brought down to cities and counties that would have to follow through on that as well. And the third item that they brought forward, I believe, was last year there was a bill proposed to all cities and counties, or anybody that receives state funds would have to create a 1% replacement fund each year to cover those costs, capital costs, which everybody would be against, because then they'd have to get money from the state and then have to levy dollars and put money aside to eventually replace that capital improvement. So everybody was against those three things, so that's what went forward.
Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, you've now exceeded your time by 1 minute. That's perfect.
Let's bank that for next time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Next.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, so I have three items to talk about. So the first one is the chief deputy wage. Chief Deputy Vipond requested to meet with the personnel committee to talk about her wage. And so we did that and discussed her wage, where she's at. We discussed essential functions, things like that. We agreed as the personnel committee to send her job description in to get evaluated, just to see where it landed, see if there was any changes, because we knew that there were some discrepancies with Baker Tilly. And so we got the job description back, and it did actually go up 2 grades. So she is currently at a grade 15 and it went up to a grade 17. And so historically, how we get somebody on the scale, an employee on the scale, is we take their base wage and we put 3.5% on top of that. That's what gets us onto the new scale. And so the personnel committee made the offer for a grade 17, step 2 at 4303. And so I'm coming to the board to ask for approval of that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion second. Is there any discussion?
Actually, was she happy with that outcome?
There was negotiations back and forth. There were some conversations, but the personnel committee, you know, our stance is still, we're trying to be consistent with how we've handled past employees when we're doing the same situation. So, our response was, we're just being consistent with our past practice.
Is there any deputies that are making more money?
There is, but at that point, we can't, with the longevity and, you know, they've worked their way up to the scale. That's how they're at the top of the scale. But in 25, she will be, in 25, she gets an increase. So she'll get the 3.5%, 3% COLA. And then she'll get the step increase as well. And so she'll go to step 3 on the 25 scale at 45.54, and she'll be above.
Now, is there a wage study gonna happen, right?
Yes.
So she'll be included in that too then?
Everybody.
Everybody is?
Yep, and we're gonna be revamping job descriptions. So we'll be able to revise job descriptions and look at it that way. So, I am looking forward to changing that.
Well, it's just, you know, the responsibility on her end, that's, you know. I've been in those shoes, where, when I first became sheriff, I can't remember, but it was like I made $300 more than I made as a deputy, you know. So it's the responsibility levels, if you know, that count there.
Yep.
Not so much the seniority, I don't think, of the deputies, it's responsibility that's laid on your shoulders. So if she's, you know, if she's okay with that, you know.
And I did offer, you know, that she could come to the board if she'd like to. In an email communication, she had said she's not going to the board, so then that's what prompted me to get on the board agenda.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other discussion? In favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vacation and sick time donation policy.
All right, so the next item I have is, we currently have a vacation donation program, which was revised in 2003. So it is, old. So I reached out to other counties to see what they had for their policies, and they have vacation and sick donation. So I kind of revamped it to be more, of Grant County and our needs and what we would be looking at. So it follows the same lines as the recipient would request to be, to be included in the vacation donation. And then the donor, the employee, full-time employee cannot receive more than 520 hours of vacation and sick. And so let's say that person is no longer needing the donation and some other employee has donated, that'll go back into their bank. They're not gonna lose it, that employee will get it back. They'll have to fill out paperwork, of course, to prove that they are in need of it. And then the donor, as well, filling out paperwork. The two items that I wanted to bring forth to you for discussion, is the two highlighted areas is donors are required to have a combined minimum of at least 80 hours of leave available to them in either their accrued sick or comp leave after a donation is made. In our past policy, they had to have some sort of a minimum in their bank, but at the same time, it is voluntary, it is up to them. So, they'll have to be responsible with their time too. So I wanted to bring that forward to see if that was a discussion item or, if we'd let them donate what they want. The other one is an employee may only donate annually. So, let's say we have a request, last February, and then now we have a request in September and that employee donated already, they wouldn't be able to. So that was another discussion item I wanted to bring up to see what your thoughts were on it.
If they, if we set a minimum hours they have to keep, why would we limit it to once a year? Is it a paperwork headache? Why would we?
Yeah, and I talked to Chad about this as well. I wanted him to review it too, to find out if there was any issues with payroll. And so we discussed it. And, I think we were on the same page as well with it. These two items, I just didn't know if that's what you wanted to do. To have a requirement of some amount to remain in their bank. But again, it is their vacation, it's their sick, it's their comp, so.
Historically, the staff would have generally probably more than 80 anyway. Obviously, if they're not new, but I mean.
Right, yeah, it all depends, yeah. We have some that are well over 80, so.
I kind of agree with what you were leading to, that if we have the 80, which I'm fine with, then I'm not so sure about the annually part, because
Yep.
it could happen to more than one
Right.
recipient that has a need, and so
Okay.
I would,
Take that out. The other one do you want them to have a minimum of 80 in there, or are you just let the employees make their own? I'm fine either way. I just wanted it to be a discussion point for the board.
what would you recommend?
I don't know. I mean, I could go either way. Carl and I had a little talk about it too. And you have to be responsible for your own time. It's voluntary. And, if you run into a situation where you don't have time left, that falls kind of on your shoulders too, to look at. So, I don't know if I have a recommendation. Other counties didn't have, a lot of counties didn't have a minimum that they had to keep in their bank. There, I would say more didn't have a requirement than did.
I think it's maybe okay to have a minimum. One of the reasons may be if you're a fairly new staff member and you don't, and yet the situation can be pretty emotional. And there may be a number of employees that would have more. I'll use myself, I may have a handful of hours and really feel the need, and now I might be in a situation where I don't have any time. And so I think it preserves the new employee to, if they have the need.
Mhm.
And so I think it's okay. And Carl, you're nodding your head, what's your thoughts?
I would assume that, like you said, if you're a new employee, it kind of, not that you don't wanna donate, you just, it might be one of those situations where it'd be better if you just were able to hold on to that for a little bit, because you can fall sick yourself.
I would say if you had a minimum, maybe 80 is too high, maybe if you went to a 48, that gives you a week and a day that you have to keep.
Thoughts along that line? What do you think, Doyle?
I don't have a one way or the other, I guess. It'd be nice to have a minimum, but what that number is, I don't know.
Dwight?
So are we talking here, Mr. Chair, that the minimum would be if you had, if it was set at 80, that you couldn't donate? Is that what we're talking?
Yes, that you couldn't
Yeah,
donate.
because you don't have the hours to,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that they have something in there.
Yes,
I guess I'm probably on with Troy there, that you could probably go down to 48. I guess, but I'd like to see some minimum.
Mhm.
I think, otherwise you can get jammed up a little bit there.
Yeah.
You know, people
Things
are
change.
pretty, you know, they're pretty generous with you. You don't want to overdo it either, you know?
Bill?
Yeah, I'm on board with Dwight. I think it's that week and a day what Troy talked about. That's. You never know. Life changes every day, so you gotta have something for yourself.
So will we be looking for a motion to accept this today?
I would look for a motion to accept it today with the changes of adding the minimum hours and then taking out the annual donation.
And changing the minimum hours to 48?
40, if that's what you guys want to do.
So is there a motion that to reflect that?
So 48 with no, or you can do more than once a year.
Yes,
Right.
those would be the
second?
only two.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, my Alex,
There we
time
go.
to shine.
I'm here. Thank you.
Hey, Maya,
Just getting started out here, I guess, and, kind of get my toe dipped in the water a little bit. Took an extra phone home yesterday, so I'm starting to feel like I know everything now, so I'm good to go. There's a lot of stuff going on, but Tina's very organized when she left, and so I think that transition will be pretty good, so.
So since you've got a number of days under your belt, I would be not in my character if I didn't ask you kind of what your vision is and how you see your position. We are 3 minutes over, so you
No,
won't get too
I'll
many
keep it
minutes.
real short then. I have some grandiose, awesome ideas, and I also know that I have a lot to learn before the good idea fairy comes out, so. I think that'll be a good fit. I think, I've built a lot of relationships that I'll need already, previous to coming, so I think that's gonna be a good benefit, but, as far as where this goes and what changes are made, there's no way to say what that looks like quite yet, but I do have some ideas of things that will benefit, I think, everybody, so.
I think there is a consensus that you have fairly big shoes to fill.
Yeah, like
To
I can
Tina's credit.
I can get 2 feet in one of her shoes, so, yeah, there you go, so, absolutely.
Are there any questions from the board for Maya?
Yes, I got a couple, being quite nice to them, emergency services board,
Mhm.
the RAC and the O and things like that, that Tina used to be part of, you're gonna do some of that.
All those acronyms that, I'm still working on. I just got the cheat sheet yesterday, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And we'll say this, us showing up and going to these meetings and stuff like that is reflective on our impact on our bill, so we gotta stay above that, what is it, 85%? Or otherwise we get we get dinged.
Mhm.
So Dwight and I sit on that and we Zoom it, instead of driving to St. Cloud,
Sure,
it's cheaper and you get the same things done. So if you wanna sit in on one of the meetings with us down at the highway, next week, Wednesday, 1 o'clock. I'll be down at the highway building. They require us to sit at a public setting to be able to
okay,
hold these, it's Teams meetings is what they are,
sure,
okay? It'd be good to get your head around some of that because there's a lot of moving parts.
yep,
Oof.
a lot of moving parts.
Anything else for Maya? Otherwise,
Well, we are looking to get a credit card approved for him.
oh, that's right.
Mhm.
He wants to spend some money,
Yep, he needs to get
So,
some certifications.
and then I don't know, is there? you need to
The
recommend
basic
a
limit, I
amount?
think, is 1,000.
Okay,
Carl?
Yes,
so we need a motion for that.
Yes.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like. I'd like to welcome you to our team. You got a lot of solid people around you and I'm sure it's gonna be fine. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
So Historical Society. We got 6 minutes of your time. But that's,
That's all right, I won't take that long. And I see Don McCollar is joined by Zoom and Larry Getzinger. Have you seen anything from Larry Getzinger? He was going to join from Zoom.
Thank you.
I think I've seen one of these before.
Yeah, you probably have.
Okay, you're-
Don McCullough.
Yep,
There you get.
yep. They're both on.
Yep.
okay,
Okay, I'm Patty Benson, the director there. I think most of you know me or been here before. First of all, I'd just like to thank the commissioners for supporting us the way they have in the past and continue hopefully. And with that too, also, we are not asking for an increase in our monies from the county this year. And our budget is pretty close to what we've been last year. Larry's the treasurer, he works out the budget, always says zero expenses and income each year. Increases, advertising, things like, advertising. This past year, we've done several programs, about 4 different speakers that have come in. Of course, with that comes more advertising for those speakers. They've all been very well received. The last one was here just on Saturday. We had what I would consider a full house for the space that we hold these in. So that was great to see that. Cause it's always busy no matter what day you pick for a program, it's always busy. It was the Hero Day stuff going on in Ashby that day, so we were really pleased with the crowd that we got, with that. Other speakers we brought in, we always have somebody at Flecka Fest. We had someone come in for our annual meeting for a speaker, and then we also had a book signing and back in July also. So all those things increase, we're advertising costs are up. We try to do as much as we can, Facebook and stuff like that. I guess other increases that we're seeing is, software licenses, computer support, things like that, because we do have an Ancestry Library Edition available up at the museum for people to come and use and for us to use also. That's running $650 a year. We have our, the other licenses that, the financial software and all this kind of stuff and all those kind of things that increase every year, it seems like. But, other than that, we kind of hold our own. We depend on the money we get from the county and donations, memberships, the townships and all that for us. So, I don't know if there's questions, or if, Larry or Don have any input, or? I don't see Larry's picture up there, but.
Questions for members, but no.
I guess the one thing, you know, we always have unknowns that come up. We've been working on the cabin for 3-4 years now. Hopefully now, finally next spring, we'll get the chinking done on it, so we can say that we're done with it. You know, it's been a long process. The other thing is we own this historical bridge that's off of County Road 21 down near where it intersects with 55. And over this last year or so, there's been a lot of debris that's piled up on the one side of it, and it is starting to tear down the foundation of the bridge. So that's something that not sure how what's gonna happen. You know, we've got to get that out of there and how it can be repaired, and, you know, so we don't know what's happening with that yet, or what that will end up being and involving. Billy has been kind of helping, looking into stuff like that. And so it's a big unknown at this point.
It's failing on the west side of it, so,
Yeah.
and it's only gonna get worse. So we got a guy that's Matt Yavaro, our county engineer, he's got a guy that he knows. So that we're supposed to have a meeting there, and that guy was working on like an interstate bridge or something like that, so they were pouring concrete. I know this is a couple weeks ago, yeah, and I talked to him. So at some point, you know, we'll have something
But
for the
yeah,
board, you know, and here, I'll talk about it with these guys and just see what's what. See what can be done. You know, it's gonna be expensive,
yeah, and it's just that to what point we don't know.
right?
Yeah,
So I see you got $7,580 worth of anticipated investment income. So obviously, you must have some, I would say, money. And do you anticipate that your investments will be able to service some of these needs, or what's your vision from that standpoint?
that's probably a question better for Larry if he's here. You know, it helps cover some of the costs. I don't know that's, you know, that kind of helps cover our typical expenses. And that is also going down a little bit from what we anticipate with the Fed probably lowering the interest rate thing, so we don't expect quite the investment income that we had. Some of that money is coming from money that was dedicated towards the cabin and fixing the cabin, so there's still the costs of that, so that's where some of that money was coming from. And yeah, until we kind of find out what it's gonna be involved with that bridge, we really don't know.
Sure.
That could evaporate.
Yeah,
Some of the investment too. Who knows? It's actually the museum's obligation. It was in the county right away at one point, and then the road got moved. So then, you know, the historical society ended up assuming it.
well, the Historical Society purchased that property with the bridge was on because it was in the Headkey the Headkey that was there. And, but yeah, it was kind of in the
Right away. it went-
right away before they
Yep.
redid the road,
Right, redid the alignment.
which kind of makes it really hard. I've never actually been and walked down there like you have, but makes it difficult actually to kind of
Yeah, you,
get down in there too.
it's gonna take a crane to fix something. If we do anything at all, but we're gonna have to address it at some point. We'll see.
And part of what the investment there is saying, we want to keep enough money put aside, so, you know, it is there for emergency use, unforeseen things that might come up,
Yeah, and that's good. I'm glad of that, so.
yeah.
Other questions for Don, or you said Larry, or?
Well, I thought, I don't see Larry's up there, didn't he?
His name is under it, he's just,
Oh, okay, so he has to speak up if he,
yes.
Larry, are you on board?
He needs to unmute himself.
Don or Larry, you wanna talk a little bit? You gotta unmute yourself.
Yes, Don McCollar, I don't really have anything to add to Patty's, presentation. It is we're proceeding, holding our own, and with the current county support. And as Patty said, we're not asking for an increase this year.
Okay,
Patty, I see that bridge there is sitting on 0.05 acres, belongs to you guys, it belongs to this. It's right-
Yep.
Right here, yeah. This is square right there.
oh, sure.
Yeah.
And if you wanna see the other pictures of what it looks like down there, Billy's got pictures of that stuff, so.
It's failing, the base underneath the stone is failing. So sheet piling or something, we're gonna have to go down there and get the sticks and all that stuff out of the way, that's kind of a hand thing, I think.
Yeah.
Go down there with the bare waders on and. It's what it ended up happening is a hard rain, we all thought it was a beaver dam, but a hard rain rinsed the creek and rinsed a lot of the box elder. Limbs and trees and this and that down into the bottom. So if it, can't climb over the top of that, so it'll undermine the bridge. Sit and rinse on the base.
So with
Can you
that,
guys hear me yet?
Okay, now
This
we
is
got,
Larry. Can you hear me?
yes,
In answer to your question about our investment income, we're pretty conservative that we've had a long time 3% guaranteed annuity with Mass Mutual that we continue to have. And where these monies come from is typically from estate gifts that we get, like the Peakup Estate, Harriet Rosengren. Last year we got one from Jim Berg. Austinson gave us one for the log cabin. These are things we can't predict when they're going to happen. We're very thankful that they do, but we're very conservative there. 3% annuity doesn't sound great, but no, this past year we're in doing money markets with Dorn Company, which has been a better, we've been getting 5.18% most of the years, 5.14 now. It's going to go down better than a CD. So we're constantly looking at that. The bridge is going to be expensive. The other thing that we've looked at is how we can better insulate the back building at the museum. It's just a steel Quonset. There's no temperature control. In the summer, it's 90 degrees in there. In the winter, it's probably 30 degrees. But insulating that is a challenge at best. So that's what our monies are set aside for. They're big projects, but we're pretty conservative in our budget. I do a monthly cash flow projection as part of our annual budgeting process, and we've been able I've been involved the last 10 years in it to maintain our budget and stay within our revenue and expense projections.
good. Well, we appreciate all your efforts as far as the society, and I guess is there anything else for the group?
okay,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
Thanks for your hard work.
Okay, thank you.
for coming, Dave.
Okay, 2025 preliminary budgets and levy certification.
I'm gonna get the can.
Okay. Bill's gonna go jog around the block there.
Can.
Well, I forgot to get the Carl for this is.
Oh, sure.
Send that down the line.
Maybe focusing on the summary or the many pages first, you think, the many.
Whatever you guys wanna handle it.
How many of these have you done
These,
in your, well, or how many meetings? Now that we got someone else, I mean, how many years have you done that?
about 21.
You know,
When we figured out the other day, I said, it took 21 times. Well, one day we figured out it was hundreds and hundreds of meetings. Yep. Yeah,
They were all fun, weren't they?
sure. Spot on. I don't know how I'm gonna move forward in life. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, in that time, I probably missed. Maybe 5, maybe. Makes planning on going on vacation this winter a lot easier, I know that.
Yeah.
You bring the ones I printed out? For anybody else to want it, I gave you yesterday with everything, kind of give you the whole pack of stuff. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to. They want to have a spare. You should have a. Well, you guys got them all with email, you know.
so yeah, if we go to the revenue. Or the summary or. However we wanna,
We can go over the summary first, I guess.
okay,
So on your summary, that looks like this one that you guys have seen. Time and time again. You'll have 2023 adopted, 2024 adopted, and 2025 proposed. The 2025 proposed, in order to get those summary numbers, of course, is all the rest of it. All the big packet stuff. Bottom line that you guys probably, or in the historically, you guys have always cared about in the past is, well, how much is our levy gonna go up based on the projected or the proposed budgets. So levy increase would be 4.806%. $394,117 increase. Based on if you adopted the proposed budgets as submitted. Big changes. Big changes were in the revenue fund up on top, that's the bigger block up on top, the very bottom line. There was the line for EMS of 165,000.
so let me make sure I was just doing a little math on your spreadsheet. If I was gonna look at that, you'd take the 165 divided by the 8.2 million, that would be the percent of effect of the levy, would that be right?
Yes,
So that would,
very minimal.
yeah, well, it's about 2%.
Yeah,
So I'm doing, that math is
it's
accurate,
about 2% of the overall total levy, net
Yeah.
levy.
yes, okay, go ahead.
Going up, the other major increases. There was about 3 that were pretty substantial, environmental services. In comparison to 2024 to 2025, you can see that is over double. In 2024, there were some
we did some budgeting with reserves, pretty much to make it balance out. 2025, you've got additional staff, you've got, you know, it's through that here in the detail. Sheriff's Department was an increase, like it is every single other year. A lot of that had to do with wages. There wasn't a substantial increase on much of anything else other than wage for the most part.
So that, of course, I'd been in the detail, that includes the projected cost of operation of the new law enforcement center?
No,
That does not.
nope.
Okay.
Not in, no. That's pretty much the larger of the three items that had.
Extensions up.
Extension is up, yes. I mean, they're all up a little, but the major big ones.
Right.
So now moving down to the bottom, you can see the general fund, that's the top line of that block below. So your levy for the revenue fund went from about 4.9 million to about just under 5.6 million. Pretty big increase. Highway, the road and bridge levy stayed the same, kudos to them. Social services or human services, that'd be Western Prairie Line, there's increased a percentage, small percentage. This is where thankfully, we are now done with we're not gonna levy anymore for the courthouse renovation. Even though according to our bond documents, according to our repayment schedule, according to everything else, 2025 would have been our last levy year, but in a review, that is a sinking fund. So, we have been levying the money over the last 6 years for that courthouse renovation had two separate bonds. We paid off the first bond. Now this is that qualified energy conservation bond, which is in a sinking fund. So that fund at the end of the year that Grant County is a custodian of those funds. We have those. We will have to make a one-time, it's like a balloon payment on a loan. A one-time payment of $2 million to pay that loan off. We should have those funds available. If not, it's gonna be very minimum that we would have to take out a reserve or wait until we collect any delinquent tax that's still owing. That's part of that. So, I took that out this year, thankfully, that helped substantially. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a $800,000 increase.
Yeah.
And then the $667,000 is the LEC debt service payment. So in 24, we had levied 558,000, that's up to 667 because of the fact that we will start, repaying that bond with principal payments, not just interest for that first year.
And that's the projected payment for 20 years?
That varies, but yeah.
But this 20, isn't it? Or 25?
Well, I think it's 20, but you caught me, I would have to go back and look.
That's
at
not
20. It's 20.
Yeah.
20 program aid, remained about the same, so we'll get, roughly 670,000 to offset our levy, which would reduce it by that 670,000, that'll come from the state. Net levy of, 8,594,696. So now, if you want to get into detail, we can do that.
What, rough guesstimate, what is the payroll increase?
The payroll increase, I used the step and wage chart for 2025. So what roughly what do I projected? Highway aside, I could go figure out highways too, but I'm gonna say it's 300,000 roughly.
Yeah. Overall, it starts at about 5 and then you creep down, don't you? Don't you budget like 5% or something for increases per year?
I go by what the step and grade chart is that was
Okay.
adopted.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very dependent on where people are at on their step and grade chart, what the cost of living increase that's built into that, that's already been approved. Cause you guys have contracts through 2025.
I think.
Yeah.
In the past, we've done 5% when we didn't have a contract done, like next year at this point, if we didn't have a contract, that
Yeah.
would be the number.
Yeah, I would ask you guys, I historically would have asked you what to budget, and you would have looked at me with a dumb look on your face, and I would have went and did whatever I wanted to, so. That's how it worked, in reality.
You hate to, I mean, you're sitting in a public meeting, you can't say, well, we'll do up to this, because then that's not.
Yeah, you can. But you gotta plug something in.
Mhm. Now, keep in mind. It is September. Things change between now and next year. So this might change today, tomorrow, the next day. This is a budget, this is a prelim. If you go forward with a pay study, and if that pay study is substantially different than what the current grade and step charts are, or the current wages are for employees, this gets all discombobulated. You know, because you will have to adopt a final levy and final budgets in December. And that will be before you have your pay study done, right, for, that'll be done next year at some point, in 25, some point. You guys wanna get into any detail stuff, or look through what I sent you, or?
So I had a question as far as the 165,000 for the EMS levy. And I know the group has worked extremely hard and they talked about having a plan, or what's the word I'm looking for? Bylaws, or can we levy before the chicken and the egg deal, before they get some of the paperwork done? Or, I mean, this is with obviously, we're doing this with the intent it's gonna commence to get done.
Yeah, we're not levying for a dedicated fund at this point.
Okay,
We're levying as part of the general revenue fund. Yep. Your alternative to that is, you know, not levying, going back of, you know, years. There's been years that you had, let's just take this, a line item that you've said, yep, plug it in there, we think we're gonna do something, so we plug it in and move forward, and life goes on, and ta-da, it worked out the way you thought it was gonna work out. There have been circumstances where we've said, not we, the board has said, yep, we agree in concept, it looks fine, looks great, we believe in it, but boy, that's a pretty big hit to our levy. So the first year, we're gonna agree to move forward, but we're not gonna levy any dollars for it, we're gonna take it out of reserve. The first year, and then once it's all set up, we'll start incorporating that into the levy. That's an option.
going back to my original question, and if you did the math on the 165,000, if you reduce that, that would make that 4.8 about 2.8. So.
Yep.
In amongst all that, not knowing on the wage study and that, but that would, even with the increased payment on, we would have it. And it doesn't, I'm not saying it because I'm changing my philosophy towards supporting EMS, but that is something that makes that 4.8.
Real.
It's
Well,
it's 2%.
Yep. But, yeah,
So question. And I don't know if they know, I guess the finance or building committee, do we know how we're gonna shake out on the law enforcement center cost? Are there gonna be any extra in the bond proceeds that can go towards something
Well, when you bond, you can't just say, we're gonna remodel the courthouse with that bond proceed.
No,
I mean, the bond proceeds are for that project.
yeah, what happens if it comes in under, I don't know, is it gonna come in under budget? You guys,
The money will sit in the account until the end of the bond.
Yeah, there's options, but we're not gonna, you can't, yeah, we're not gonna put it in the general fund and,
We can't pave the parking lot here with that money.
no,
we can't reduce our levy with it.
no,
Okay,
no.
And even if it was allowable by bond, you need to go through the Elbow Lake EDA to get their blessing, because realistically, that's their money.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Couple of different things with that, yes, let's say that at the end of the day, the bills are paid, the project's done. We're done writing checks out of the account. There's X dollars left of the proceed to spend. Those monies can sit there. Or, I believe you could buy down part of the principal with that upfront. There will be a call date, which means at this point in time, this is when you can basically do a refund on your bond, which, hey, the interest rates are down or whatever purpose, you know, our balance might be this, but now we want to reduce our balance to this, so we're gonna go out and re-borrow the money for the remaining, let's just say 10 years. Yeah, that's what you would do with it.
Yeah.
And those funds, keep in mind, those funds are not held in Grant County. Those funds are held at US Bank. They're our paying agent, which are accruing interest. So,
Ashley, I don't know if you've had any communications with David Drone or any of these other companies, what they see or counties when they do this study we're gonna do, can we anticipate or project potentially the effect? Since we haven't done one since 2021?
I don't think so until they look at our job descriptions and where we sit right now. I think we're too early, in the early stages of it to determine how off we are or if we're in more market than we think.
So let me re-ask the question. You do this study, assuming, let's say, the jobs don't change significantly. We do the study to make sure we're in a range in comparison to other counties.
And that our job descriptions are accurate.
Yeah.
To those points that they,
Normally, when you do a study to get us in comparative to what's going on in the market,
that
we're
would
not
be
usually
mar-
overpaying. What's that?
That would be just a market study, which we did in 2022. We did a market study. They did not reevaluate job descriptions at that point.
But this will have a market study in it.
This will be all of it. So we're gonna revamp job descriptions. We'll recreate or, add duties that have been added to people's jobs that weren't included. We'll be doing all of that, the whole thing.
But what I'm saying is, if the market study is part of the study, usually it doesn't go down.
So I think to answer your question is that historically, what I've seen is you'll get three options with the completed study to implement it. Option one will be between $100,000 and $150,000. Option two will be between $250,000 and $300,000, and option three will be $750,000 to $1 million. And historically, it's been option two.
So, knowing we know about the study and when it'll commence to happen, how does that affect this budget? Because if we kind of know that it's going up, should we be,
We got a budget for 20, or we've got a contract through the end of 25, so that would be a 26.
Okay,
this
so-
year.
well, all I can do for this budget is project the information that I had when I was preparing it.
that's so
You have a whole nother budgeting cycle before any future, before the pay study would be implemented.
Yeah, and let me ask this, when is the planned implementation of that case study?
I don't know.
Nobody can answer.
Actually, you know that answer?
No,
Nobody can answer.
it'll be included in our union negotiations as well. So we'll be negotiating at the same time. The one thing we do know is that, I've been told that the $30,000 that the base pay is going to cost does not have to be paid until the completion of the study.
So that could be an expense of 25 that you wanna maybe consider too. I don't know what was
Yeah, it's
decided.
already in there.
Oh, okay.
We did get notice from AMC. Do you see that letter they sent out? Did you guys get that? Which they're gonna say are due their 90, what was it? Now, I don't know if that's material in the grand scheme of things.
You got a friend of you, Carl?
I just sent it to the board.
That come from you, Carl.
Yeah, it's came from me.
So they're saying 9,831 would be, if that's compared to what?
Went up a couple $1,000.
I went up $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah, they gave that presentation, evidently we're way under for a lot of their staff, yeah, so.
But they've been performing. If you look at that sheet, Carl's gonna talk about that a little bit, right? I don't wanna steal your thunder on that.
It was more for information. I assume that we would want to include the AMC increase of $2,000. To the commissioner's budget. But I mean, when we're talking $2,000 and $300,000 is pretty small peanuts. And then the other item that I had was, TNID reached out and stated that another $1,000 should be added to the education, and training for, emergency manager position. Just so that Maya can get those other trainings that he's gonna need to be certified for that position. Those are two things that I knew needed to be added into the budget.
You had a chance to look at it through your lens?
Through the AMC,
No, the budget, since you've been on staff and you're doing my job for a long time.
I did run through it. I did not get all the way through the highway budget. That would be something that I need to talk with Matt and just have explanation, like I just, kind of understand a little bit. I did send it out to Bill and Troy. But I think it was under the understanding that if we're gonna make any recommendations, it'll be for the final levy.
Right.
Right. Right now, what I would say is the $1,000 emergency management training, take that out of reserves, and the 2,000 for AMC, we just move on your line item from like the wage study down to AMC, because that'll be continuing, but that wage study will be going away after this year. So if we just use reserves for that $3,000, that's not. Those are all one-time,
Expenses.
yeah.
Do we have any projected costs for the remodel, I'll call it, for the existing law enforcement center in the lower level of the courthouse? Is there gonna be expense? Is there anything for that?
It's been budgeted for $30,000 to renovate the ground floor. So that's kind of the number that Jeff and.
So that's in here.
Came up with.
How about any, do you anticipate any expense in the, I'll call it the shed, because I don't know what else you call it. For if you're moving into that area. Not
Small
significant.
ones, just to get, plumbing.
Yeah,
Get water put in on one bay and, doing a little expansion on the electricity there, but nothing major.
comments? Anything else that you can enlighten us on, Chad? That jumps out?
Do you guys have any questions on any of the other stuff?
I was gonna
Well,
look at,
keep in mind, when you're setting the preliminary, this is a preliminary. You'll have to make a final certification of budgets and levy in December. And that's what will actually go on property taxes for 2025. That number, there are some exceptions to the rule. Not very many, but there are some exceptions to the rule that you can increase your preliminary, but most of them do not ever apply. So when you set your preliminary levy, keep in mind that come December, if you go, oh shit, we forgot something, you're not increasing it. You can decrease, but you can't increase. Right?
So back to the question where I asked if it included the cost for the law enforcement center operating, where would that be in the?
It would be in the general government buildings line item, Jeff.
And that's towards the beginning or towards the end or?
This one is the number, if you're looking at the number on the, are you looking at this? Summary, you're looking at this, that would be 110. So like, if you see Department 003, Department 5, Department, so 110 would be near the middle, it's called General
County,
page
county
17.
buildings.
Page 17. That is where the courthouse utilities, Jeff, I mean, you can speak to it, you're.
Yeah, well, I've just tried to prorate out everything similar to this building, courthouse building, for day-to-day operations, electricity, plumbing, garbage, fire contract for the fire alarm panels or the extinguishers or the elevator or the garbage, anything that is similar in all three buildings.
So,
I think it's like either a contract or a monthly payment.
so that's 345,000. And last year we budgeted 309, if I'm looking at the right health.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were talking about the law enforcement center, the projection was that it would cost around what, $125,000 to $135,000 to operate.
That was an estimate.
But we're not gonna be able to run that building. And I see to date is 186,000. Is that enough? Cause it doesn't seem like those numbers are squaring.
Well, I'm sure there's probably some operations there that I'm not privy to, that would have to be, John would have to answer. I'm just, all I do is what I sort of know, which is like the HVAC system, those kind of things. And then best guess, by the square footage and by what our averages have been for this building and the courthouse for the last 5 years.
So we raised it basically $36,000.
Right.
Are we saying there's nothing in
If
here?
it's under, we can always up it, you know.
Go ahead.
and
Go
be-
ahead, Chad.
Keep in mind, you increased your 2024 budget as well from 23.
Yep,
So there was already partial increase in 24.
which went up 13.
40,
Well, went up more than 13.
yeah.
Oh, the budget, yeah, that was actually, excuse me,
Went up.
went up 50, 40, 45, yeah.
So I mean, it's not a all at once hit here. We did a partial for 24 and another increase in 25. So really your increase from 23 to, because you don't have additional staff, you don't have additional anything else. It's from 23 to 25, you've increased $80,000.
It was $100,000 operation or maintenance estimated expense. Well, we'll be in year one, so maintenance is gonna be covered by somebody other than us.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with the number? Are we comfortable with the number? Because it doesn't seem like it might not be enough. I don't know. Like you just said, we can't increase it.
I'm comfortable with it. I believe that Jeff did his due diligence on it.
Okay,
have any issues. Because I know that when we talked, well, a year ago at this time,
Yeah,
you and I sat through and did, knowing there's gonna be a partial increase.
right.
Part of that hit, and then we talked about increasing the final part of that hit for right now, today.
And that building should be a little more energy efficient even than this building because with all the geothermal system in it.
So utility service. Would that be heat?
Yeah.
Right,
So we're gonna take on 9,000 square feet and budget $5,000 less money. I don't know if anyone heats a home. That don't make sense.
Where's the 5,000?
Well, it was 50,000 for utility service in 24, and now we budgeted 45.
We were doing projections in 23 for 24, not knowing what was gonna happen. Going off the rates, we're going off our historical billings, we're going off everything.
So we're good with it.
I think so, because
Okay,
we were generous in that 50 from
Okay.
last year, because we didn't know what we were getting.
I just wanna make sure we're not
You
$100,000
don't sound
short.
convinced.
You
don't sound convinced.
Well, I'm not,
If you take a piece.
because I remember the number is 135,000 that it was projected
Well, do
to
we
cost
want to,
us.
do you want to increase it?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I know we can't increase it and that it's subject to discussion, but I'm hearing that it's.
We can increase
We
it,
can increase it, I'm fine with that.
yeah.
I mean, like, if I don't spend it, I don't spend it. This is what happened this year. And we budgeted for 50, we didn't spend it all. That's why it's down. So if we go 50, we go 50. And then spend it or not.
That will increase our, I say just go with what you guys recommend, and, if it goes over a little bit, then we'll figure that out when time comes. Yeah, that's what I say.
And I believe.
It's kind of like,
Goes over just, or if that line item goes over a little bit, there'll be another line item that offsets it.
Great.
And I mean, that's just kind of what I've noticed as I was going through the budget is. Items are pretty close, but generally looking, it looks like the offices are all underspending their budget by a couple $1,000s a year, generally. So I mean, if we're talking $5,000, it really offsets itself just in the budget because they might have over budgeted for something and either they didn't have enough, or they didn't have as many trainings, something else, it just kind of comes back. So if it's. If we're $5,000, it's probably gonna correct itself somewhere else in that department budget.
we'll keep track of it the first year, and we'll know what to do. We'll be right there.
Just a snapshot of time.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll do really well.
Yep. Well, like you say, it's efficient, the geothermal should.
Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, and we've talked on this already, remember when the courthouse had 47 air conditioners in it, and the electricity bill was $10,000-12,000 a month in the summertime. What is that bill today on that building for utilities? For the courthouse? $1,200, $1,500?
I do know when I
I've
was
seen them.
working out. And trying to prorate out a 9,000 square foot building compared to this one and the courthouse. If you go by just the amount of energy used in this building versus the courthouse in the last 5 years. It's cheaper to heat and cool the courthouse than it is this.
Yeah.
building.
Exactly.
With
The
that.
same thing with that,
system.
the LEC, the
Yeah.
same thing.
And from what I've noticed with the budget too, it doesn't look like there's a lot of fluff in anybody's budgets. I mean, most of the budgets are salary and those benefits. The other things that people are budgeting for, it doesn't look like people are putting a lot extra money into their account. They're budgeting for what they need. And again, there's just, I have a number of questions, but again, those I think need to be kind of discussed a little bit more.
When is it projected for that credit coming back from the Fed on the Inflation Reduction Act, is that coming in this year's budget cycle? Or this next year's?
Potentially, we don't know that.
That's 305,000.
It hasn't been financed out yet. but-
Okay. So there's your buffer right there, possibly. Mr. Chair, you looking for a motion?
So, yep, at some point we need that, if we're, what's Chad's presented is at 4.806.
You gotta use a dollar figure.
That 394,000.
And I'll make a motion for the 8,594,696.
Thank you. I knew we'd get to the right number. We got a motion.
Second.
Additional discussion.
Yeah. I know there's questions on this, but are you guys gonna review this now before December, or are you gonna? We can sit here in December and do the same, play the same game, no?
Well, let's first talk about what the word review, if we had Webster's dictionary, what would that involve?
Well, I mean. Let's get past the motion, but I would like to make one comment about the budget. You know, going back and looking at an increase, no one likes an increase. But if you go back and look at the actions that have been taken so far in 2024. Many of those actions have dealt with wages, increases, additional staffs, different things that out of our department heads are out of our control. So I mean, those factor into this as well. You know, so it's not just department heads increasing their department budget.
Well, if you figure payroll is 300,000 roughly, and we put 165.
Or just even staff additions. You just did it today again with the chief deputy. I mean, those things have an effect on the budget that we don't have control over.
Yeah.
I don't have control over mine or any of the rest of us. So you have to kind of keep that in the back of your mind that not all actions in our budget are taken by the department head.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I think we understand that.
Ken was looking for the wiggle room in what's. My understanding normally of the budget is we're budgeting current employees through the year of 25. There will be turnover. They'll start at a lower, there'll be a gap in that employment, you know, those add up pretty quick.
Yep.
So
Okay, done.
so during discussion, we got Greg in the room and you mentioned that environmental services budget was up quite a bit. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but then we also have then our other coordinator position that's not in there. The net effect, I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe you can tell us in a sense.
Well, we had a coordinator budget. Yeah, we have a coordinator budget. So. From 24 to 25, it's a reduction of $18,000.
And Carl mentioned that last meeting.
Yeah.
We also took what was land management, a one-person department, and made it environmental services that at least for. And at least part of, if not all of next year, will be a three-person department. So that's what happens when you do that.
And I just projected in my budget, you guys, the whole year, just so we can have that conversation, because after August, I won't be here. So there's 4 months of push there, but, right, I'm like 99% confident that's gonna happen, but I don't wanna put you guys in a position where, right, things change, but that's my plan. Right?
Yeah.
And I have been pretty conservative with the money that I've received through those grants through AIS.
Yeah.
And, you know, the buffer law program. So, you know, when you talk about some of the stuff that's going on in that reserve, that is, you know, in theory, that's earmarked for my office. That's a pretty significant number. Right? So I've been pretty conservative about that.
So, thank you for that input.
I mean, that goes to right what Chad was saying, is that the board made the decision to make a one-person office, at least for part of next year, a three-person, that's the result of it.
So back to. We're in discussion and Chad had asked the question of us.
Well, we get through the preliminary first, and then we can talk about that.
Okay, So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Got the number, you got that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So let's talk a little bit about how we then proceed, as far as a review. Or what kind of communications or discussion or thoughts or.
Well, I think this is a question of what is the intention of the board moving forward with budgets and Carl's position and. I mean, we're gonna bury our head in the sand because we took action today and then end of December, we're gonna sit at a meeting and scratch our head again, or we could actually sit down and look at this.
Well, I maybe I'll defer to Carl and your job descriptions, it says that you'll assist with budget, so let's go back to Webster and say, what's assist? And let's hear from you.
So again, I took last week, I got the budget about a week and a half ago. I took last week and kind of went through and I kind of itemized 38 different items within the budget that I kind of had questions on. I sent those out to Bill and Troy, and Chad. And we have not had time to sit down and talk about those items yet. Some of them are simple things. Some of them are, is this amount for the 11% of this building that we occupy? Some of my questions are, you know, the rental of a copy machine for when we move over to the courthouse. I mean, is that gonna be something that's divvied out amongst HR, emergency management coordinator? Like, those are some of the different items that, should they have been budgeted or should they, like, how should we formulate some of this budget?
And yeah, that, I mean, we'll have to sit down and talk about that because ideally, those offices will be empty by the end of the year, so that's square footage, so that 11% will hopefully drop down 8-9% that we'd be paying in this building, so there's not a huge savings there, but that could offset your copy or.
Yeah. And there's a couple items in the budget that were large increases. And is there a threshold that the board has for a dollar amount increase in somebody's budget that they should come to the board over? Or just because they put it in their budget, does that mean it's approved?
Yep. Going on past practice.
Past practice would say, I mean, on the preliminary level, yeah, it's.
So that would be my question is, I mean, somebody budgeted $19,000 for furniture and equipment. Should that be brought in front of the board or is that an automatic approval?
Well, I think on the preliminary, it's an approval, but it can be whittled on as you get down to setting your final budget. I mean, I've seen that when I was a sheriff, they took money.
Yeah,
took money out of budgets.
I think what Carl's asking is. Not me, but let's say I budgeted. $25,000 for something for my office and the final budget gets approved with it in. Do I just go ahead and buy it?
Oh.
That's what
you're
you're
saying,
asking,
Carl?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they, you know, you gotta be reasonable about that, you know.
Well, we don't have any written dollar figure that says you need to come. I mean, historically, we said if it's a bigger.
We should go back and watch recordings of board meetings. When the highway department rolls in and says, I want this, is it in your budget? Yep, we'll go ahead and buy it then.
Yeah,
Historically, that's
Right?
But they asked to approve it though. They asked us to approve it.
Yeah.
in the budget.
They didn't just go buy it.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
We haven't said you need to have the ordering or however you wanna say it necessarily approved. We want notification so the treasurer has cash.
Mhm.
And I get what's being asked here is, do we say that anything you wanna buy over X
X
dollar
dollars.
figure has to be approved before you sign a contract I understand what's being asked and we don't have anything written down that says
Yeah.
a purchase over X amount has to be approved prior to proceeding.
So am I, wanna kind of hearing, and I agree with what you said, Chad. Is this where assist? Where, with this situation rises, that'll be part of your in your wheelhouse to communicate with a particular department to, so when you come to the board. That you can explain, yeah, I talked to Chad and this is what it's for and it makes full sense, da 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 da. And you are that link.
Yes, Mr.
That's the
Chairman.
what I feel.
What Carl would probably do is get committees together and then you sit with a committee before you present, right?
Correct. And I mean, as the coordinator, I'm an equal to all the department heads.
Right.
And if I'm coming in and I'm questioning a department head on their specific budget, should it be, is it gonna be interpreted as Carl is coming in and questioning my budget, and then he's gonna go present it to the board? Or is this a committee meeting and we ask the budget or the department head to come in and kind of explain some of the items in their budget?
You could do that.
One seems like Carl's leading the way, and the other seems like he's assisting with the budget with the commissioners. That's how I see assisting in the budget is I'm looking at this and saying. There's a list of things here that just kind of raise some flags in my head and I say. Either, I'm not saying it doesn't look right, I'm just saying I need to be explained. There's nothing wrong with what people have in their budgets, it's just sometimes I go, well, did you budget enough for this? Or this has been in your budget for the last 5 years. And you're budgeting 7,000 for something and you've only ever spent $500 out of that. Are you over budgeting by $6,500 when it's not something that you normally spend?
So let me ask, for 21 or approximately years, we've kind of done it the way we have. With your experience and knowledge, Chad, can you see a better way now that we have a Carl in the coordinator position that would be beneficial for department heads in the room and others that aren't here and us as the board? How do you, what's your vision as far as that?
The preliminary budget is somewhat difficult to work on because of the fact it's so early. I'm gonna start kind of the sequencing. It's hard to project out today what's gonna happen in the middle of 2025, more or less next month. So to get the preliminary, to get a good grasp on the preliminary, kind of winds down until we're in August. I mean, some counties, yeah, they'll start in July or whatever it is, but they have more no-ones. Some of our departments are easy, we have more no-ones. If you know what your contract states for your wages, and if you're an office such as me, and I know what my cost is gonna be at CPT for my tax software, and I have an idea what we're gonna do for computers, and I have a somewhat of an idea what we're gonna spend on pens and pencils and rubber bands, fairly simple. It's a little more difficult for other departments, I mean, if there's a building project, it's difficult to know. If you're the sheriff's department, it's a little bit hard to know, you know, these things are hard to know. So to put this preliminary together, I think it's worked okay, I think it's worked fine. Moving between today and December is where I feel that there's been a lack of
Review.
review, but just it seems like we kind of tend to forget about this until we absolutely need to talk about this in December. I mean, we need to do this a little more justice. So yes, do I feel there's room for improvement? Definitely.
So let me ask. Carl made a reference to a $7,000 budget and a historical $500 purchase. And let's say we're gonna use Greg as the guinea pig. It's Greg's environmental services. Just role playing, Carl sits down with Greg, say, I've been looking. This is probably something we need to address with the board. We're gonna have to talk about this a little more at this such and such a meeting. Would you like to come to the meeting and explain this, or would you like me to? Does that make sense? but you have the discussion, you give the department head the information or to let them decide how to present it to us? Or how do you,
you go through a hot biddy?
I think it would be budget committee instead of the full board,
the what?
budget committee.
Okay, there you go, excuse me.
Yeah, I think you go to the budget committee, and
Yeah, that's-
what I would like to see is happen is. Honestly, I mean, in my thought of how really this, if you really, my thought, if you want it to really, really work well. Is you have your budget committee that's active, right? And you have the departments that need to be involved on the budget committee. You would say Carl, probably me, probably the treasurer, you know, those people that work on budgets, finance, levies. And it would probably be beneficial to, at some point, consider maybe having, someone, one or ones, a couple people, maybe from the community that are not county officials, be part of your budget committee.
Oh,
Maybe a couple people that at least you can get input into certain things, because like I said, it's been 20 years and I go back to the days of, you know, none of you guys are on this board, where we had discussions about, yeah, we're gonna close the license bureau now. And it's during this budgeting that these discussions happen, we're gonna shut the doors and somebody can do it privately, right? Well, best plan, I don't know, my job is to put the numbers in the paper. We've talked about closing or shutting down, extension at one point, you know, just do away with it, we don't need it. Or let's talk about contracting with our county, or let's be, all these things that come up. Well, I think if you had maybe some. We get wrapped up in our little world of living within the government. Maybe if you had a couple of liaisons from the public being on that, that says, hey, no. You know, have you thought about this, or no, don't shut that down, or, you know, whatever it is. And it would be good to meet between now and December a couple times, just to flush some of that stuff out that Carl's talking about. Why is this number this way? Well, historically, this is the way we've always done it. Can we change it? Definitely.
so to the board, we just heard some really valuable input. And I hope we heard it. Do you agree with what we heard, and should we then charge this group in front of us and our budget committee to move forward in this light? Doyle?
Well, yeah, it needs to be, we got a coordinator, or, you know, a full-time coordinator. But, and I don't think it would hurt to have a couple community members, but, I mean, where would a guy pick them from, or how would they?
Yeah, I'm not saying, I wasn't saying like tomorrow we decide.
Yeah, but I mean-
Eventually, I think that would be an okay thing.
Yes.
Moving forward. I think the players that are in here better get their feet in the ground before you start inviting somebody else into it, and then it turns into, those guys don't know what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
Bill, how do you feel with what we heard?
Say it again, you asked me?
Yes,
We've been indiscriminately, we've been doing this, you know what I mean, but, you know, as a budget committee, we've met, you know, after the preliminary's been set to try to adjust some of that stuff, but, you know, like what Carl's picking out here is certain things that we need to explain, which is, you know, it's great that you are diving into this thing, you know, about a vehicle lease, you know, of 5,900 or 5,816, whatever that number is this a lawnmower lease? You know what I mean? That you were asking that and some of this kind of stuff. And there's some unanswered questions. So, you know, but I think with Carl on board and the budget committee, and we all sit in the room and brainstorm, I think that's a great thing.
concept wise, you agree?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right.
I still think if we have committees that are on for department specific, rather than a budget committee, those committees should be handling, so highway department. I don't sit on the highway committee, I sit on the budget committee. Should the highway department handle that and take that outside of the budget committee process, where there is a committee for that department? Should that be handled there rather than just the overall, cause I didn't sit in 12 months worth of meetings to know what their needs are.
You know, that's a good point.
good.
Dwight,
No, I think, that's how I envisioned, the coordinator job would be every year, a part of it to, sit down with the department heads and the budget committee and, you know, go through their budget, you know, what's this for, what's that for, on every department. That's how I envision this, one of Carl's duty, and I'm glad he picked up on that. But, no, that's what needs to be done.
So Carl, have you heard us?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, yes, we need to. And from, to Troy's point, is that when you have or a highway department. I agree that budgeting should be part of the highway, like, because when like I said, I have not fully dug into the highway budget yet. I didn't wanna do that truly until I kinda understood more about the highway. There's all, you know, the other committees, that there's the sheriff. That should be a conversation in that committee with those committee members.
Ashley or Greg, oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to.
When we're talking about the general, like the highway, or I'm sorry, like HR, emergency management, the assessor's office, all those other kind of general government offices that don't have a specific committee tied to them. Yes, I believe that's where the budget committee should have those department heads come in and discuss their budget.
Ashley or Greg. You wanna add anything in this discussion? You got a lot of years of experience.
The one thing that popped into my head was, and Carl brought that up right away, is the thing he's trying to weave in this as well is he doesn't wanna come across, tell me if I'm wrong, but you wanna be a peer to us, not a boss to us. That's been a fear that a lot of people are having, right? You can sense that. So what I think Carl's trying to accomplish is making it a kind of a team effort, right? I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't do. What I'm here to do is hear it. So I'll just use my office as the example, right? My budget, granted, went up a whole bunch because of staff and employees, but I also at the last department head meeting suggested, and I put in my budget, that I believe that my office needs another vehicle. Right? So that's kind of significant, right? That's 2 vehicles for 1 office. But I gave the pitch as to why I believe that was necessary. So maybe how we could even play this out a little differently is when we're doing our preliminary budgets. That's when we sit down with that budget committee before we even get to this day and say, why is yours going up? You know, outside of employees, $40,000 as an example, right? So I would argue that I think it's gonna take another year. I mean, we are really jumping into a pool that Carl doesn't know how to swim very well yet, and we don't know how to swim with him very well.
And I think
So
you're
we
right.
gotta be able to give and take and massage. This is kind of an exercise that we're all new at, and I mean, this kind of conversation is, I think, what we've all been wanting for a long, long time.
Ashley,
Be able to have this conversation.
Ashley, would you like to add something?
Well, I mean, my budget is very small, so I don't have a lot of big things happening. But I would agree that, you know, that team effort, so, you know, Carl doesn't feel like he's, you know, not down to the department store telling them, or making them feel or come across maybe as he's telling them what to do. You know, maybe a committee would be helpful for Carl.
Jeff, you kind of heard the discussion. You want to add anything, thoughts?
No, it seems to make sense to do it that way. And that's the whole point of having a coordinated position in there anyhow, to be this liaison between departments and the commissioners, and to actually be able to explain some stuff when asked. So he's gotta be able to know a little bit about each of the departments.
So I agree. I like what Troy added about the specific committees. I think it's important. I think it's extremely helpful. Appreciate Chad bringing it up, because I think it's really a pertinent discussion, and as we're moving into having a coordinator, that it's the other piece is, and I guess we gotta set our truth and taxation, but the other piece is I did the quick math, and I don't know how many meetings, but probably close to 550 to 600 meetings that you've you take 21 years times
Oh, yeah.
25, 27 meetings that he's equipped and corralled and whatever the hell else you did amongst us. But I wanna know, you to know from the board that we really appreciate those efforts. And,
Part of my job,
yeah,
well, was part of my job,
yeah. But,
thankfully not anymore.
yeah, but we do recognize and appreciate that, and so I wanna thank you
Thank you.
from the board. And now any, we voted on the preliminary, we're done with that.
So that what'll be left to do will be. Sucks. So there's a couple things. The HRA levy, just as a review. We like the word review today. Webster's. The HRA levy is not included in the general levy that we set. It's an outside independent standalone levy like the Boise Sioux would be, or the, pick something, library. So their request is $200,000 for 2025, so that would need to be approved for the preliminary. Something we do every year. Once in a while, we kind of forget to actually officially make that motion, but it's always been part of it. And then set the truth and taxation hearing date for time and date. And I don't have those dates with me. I emailed them out. I believe it's the end of November through December 28th or some date. It's the time range, and it has to be starting after 6 o'clock.
Historically, we've done the Monday before the
Yeah.
second meeting, which would be the 16th
Correct.
at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's
And-
do you need a motion?
Yeah,
That would be my motion.
the what?
16th
Okay, 16th.
at 6 P.M.
December,
of December, yep,
6
at a
p.m.
location that you can secure, here preferably, but.
Yeah, we kind of ran into problems the one year because of something. to do
Toys
with
for
some
Tots.
Toys or something, Toys for Tots.
But
But
at
here,
what,
if we can get it, right?
the location you can secure, so if it's here, great, if not, I think we use the courthouse before.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye. Now we got the request from HRI. I had a question, was it 100,000 last year?
Yep.
So basically, if you look on your tax statement, if it was $5.58, it will be
$10.
$10 or $11.16 or whatever.
Still nothing.
So it is double.
Yes.
Okay, so, we got a copy of the request, from, Lorna, the chairperson. Is there a motion to accept the request of $200,000 in 2025?
So movement, the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? In favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
Before we, I know it's kind of out of order committee, if we wanted to expand that budget committee, do you think the treasurer, because currently the treasurer's not on there, and Carl's not listed on there, we should add at least those two if we want for now.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else we should add?
Well, I think it would be a good idea for that'd be 5, right? You know, I think us 5 should get together and talk and see what we think. I mean,
so do we need to?
might change after half an hour discussion.
Okay, well, no, you just appoint, but just so that we have just appoint those two
Just
additional.
appoint,
So, the,
Point the coordinator and the treasurer.
Yeah.
so, okay, so do we, do I just do it, or do we need a motion? So then I'll let the minutes reflect, we'll appoint the Holly, Joe, and Jamie, I knew that, Jamie Cruz.
God, don't point out the Jewish law. We don't want that.
And Carl to the budget committee. Thank you. And thank you.
Now, go ahead just 2 seconds, but can the process be much better? Most definitely.
Yeah.
Has the process worked for the last how many years? Yeah. We're in decent financial position. We haven't been going backwards. We haven't increased our levies so much that we have a war chest. I mean, we're always right where we need to be. whether it's, boy, we overshot 10 grand here and we overspent 20 grand there, and it all seems to come out the wash. Dealing with a lot of money. Well, 20 million.
But I think the other thing is, when the dust does settle, if it was 2.8%, we can be pretty proud of that, taking on the payment on the law enforcement center, and I think the people want us to commit to EMS.
Yeah, no, I don't
That's
disagree. I
a-
mean, the goal is always to keep it as minimal as you can.
But
The scary thing is you do that and the following year you get a 7% increase.
Yeah, I know.
because you- Oof.
so we're
Yeah,
committing to the
That's
future.
much worse than a 4. and a
The other
4.
thing to remember too is that we have an increase in net tax capacity with new constructions. We brought on about $11 million worth of new value to the county that helps offset this 4.8%.
Yeah,
Big time.
so that's.
growth.
in-
The growth.
The growth helps.
Yeah, and in theory, what this truth in taxation will do for us now is it will say, here's what it'll be twofold. One for the taxpayer. Here's what we think your taxes are gonna be, right? It also comes back to the county and says, okay, county, here's what your increases would be now based on the new valuations and the new tax capacities and all these things. So you increase your levy 4 point, I don't even, whatever it is, right, for the preliminary. What are people really seeing on their tax for an increase? You know, some might see a more than 4%, some might see a less than 4%. So it gives the county a gauge too of, Jesus, what did that really do? Yeah, so I mean, it's twofold.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
Sounds good, thank you.
going
Jack.
back to, thank you, Mr. Charlie Ward for the state auditor's office.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we're gonna, just a side note to my office, hopefully, we're gonna have, our audit hopefully wrapping up. We're waiting on a couple of things, but been a bit frustrating, waiting for these outside agencies, not myself or not the state auditor's office, waiting for information. And then next time you meet will be when, October 1st. Just an FYI, we're gonna, Friday, we have to have ballots available in our office for absentee voting, so around your next meeting, we're gonna try to, have ballots ready to be sent out about then for that November election.
about what time you're gonna send it?
About the 1st of October.
Yep.
So we're, first step is to have the printer actually deliver the ballots to us.
Yeah.
Just also been kind of
So
frustrating.
you're stuffing them and,
In-house?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to Ashley. We've got, 4 of our election judges that we've used in the past have been calling me and bugging me. Can we please come back and work in the elections? I don't know what's wrong with them. They're nuts. In today's world, we really wanna work on elections. So they're employees, so we're just gonna onboard them again. And, what I might do is see if a couple of those individuals would want to come in and help now at the end of September and just help stuff for a day or two to kind of relieve us some. Cause now we have all splits, you know, it's not just a township ballot, it's a township with 3 different school districts, so we gotta. Yeah, slow it down a little bit to make sure everybody gets the right stuff, so I'll call you when I have a list.
Carl,
Thanks, Jeff.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, all right. One thing I do wanna make statement to is the last meeting was not on YouTube due to an audio issue. Our audio cord ended up being piggybacked like 6 different times between the owl and the computer. So that, the last board minute meeting was not posted on YouTube. The other things that I do need approval for are for the office, the approval of the coordinator to be moved into the old sheriff and deputy offices once they vacate the space. With the strategic planning committee, the areas that we assumed were that the coordinator was gonna be in the sheriff and the chief deputy space. HR was gonna be moved to the booking room. Where the deputies and kind of the investigators are, that's where the emergency manager would go. And then the dispatch room would be converted to basically another meeting room. That is what the strategic planning committee came up with. We are gonna end up removing the glass wall for the sheriff's office. And then where you look into the dispatch center, there used to be a door under the original construction. And that'll be another door to get into the meeting room. And then the desk where I'm gonna say Tina's old workstation, that's gonna be removed as well.
So when you see this in a diagram, does it make sense?
Yes. I believe it makes sense, Jeff, you agree with that as well?
Yeah.
And Carl, where you're going in, is that wall coming out?
The center wall will be coming out, yes.
Carl, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to do what you just laid out.
Okay, we got a motion to do what he just laid out.
So that, HR into booking. Coordinator into the sheriff, chief deputy's office, emergency management into the deputy's area. And dispatch to a conference room.
And was there talk about like an IT room or where like there was a printer and all that? Where was that gonna go? We're staying where it's at.
So within the committee, department heads have been requesting a mail room. Basically just to take up that other space. The strategic planning committee at this time has not been able to locate a room or a space at this point in time that would work for that. I think once we're moved in, there is space there. One of the offices in the deputy space is kind of what was that being listed as, Jeff? It's being listed as a storage room.
Right. This one?
Yes.
Yeah, the one next to the men's bathroom.
You want to share it?
Is that what you're talking, the one next to the men's bathroom?
The one that butts up against it. This is sort of the layout that,
And we've kind of determined, maybe it's a crazy question, that the extension's gonna stay where they're at.
That was the discussion.
There's not room for
There's not room for extension.
Okay.
And I did go down and visit with extension yesterday, just to kind of introduce myself, say hello, talk with her for a little bit, and I think the room that extension would need, we don't have space.
It don't look good.
In our current space.
So it is.
for it.
Yeah.
So that data room, that'll stay there.
The
Because
data room
there's
stays in that room.
a lot of equipment that's gonna stay there operational, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
so in the data room right now, the sheriff's office has got their stuff, and then the rest of the courthouse has got some of the data is actually being held over in this building here as well. I believe as those servers and as those items are, replaced or updated, they will go into the server room in the sheriff's building, because there's already space underneath the driveway that gets into the other sheriff's room, so that is all air conditioned, temperature control, with the IT room, so eventually, depending on what's there, how Sean sees fit for that room, there could potentially be a long-term solution, but it's not gonna be something that happens right now.
So we got a motion and a second. To do what you said, so you can write what you said. If you would like it more formalized, I'll ask Troy to restate it, but
You need more?
No, I'll make that.
any other, we got a second, did we get a second? No. Or second, thank you. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sold.
I'm glad you talked with extension because in the big picture, she was headed that direction and now that's not the case. So you did talk to her about that.
I didn't talk about their space needs,
Okay.
I just kind of
Stuck your
introduced
head to it.
myself, asked a few questions about extension, just trying to kind of keep it light, just to keep my foot in that door and make sure that she knew that she was knocking in time, and so it was 5-10 minutes I was there.
So do you need the approval I see you have for to address the dispatch area to conference? Would you like that?
That
Or
was
was that,
included.
or was that included in, say what I did?
That was to include it, but my other questions would be to purchase desks, chairs. Would we like to do like a 65-inch TV, something similar to this? It doesn't need to be a smart TV. A computer, should it have an owl in it? Would you like me to furnish this meeting room? And that would be the approval that I would need is to,
I would say come back with a price to get a TV, and whether it's an owl, however that is, that it's. I don't wanna limit you and say you have to get an owl, find the best video conferencing. Maybe not the best, but an affordable.
because I believe these are about $1,800.
Right, but that size of room is an owl the best, I don't know the answer, if that's the best thing or not. But to me, that kind of goes along with having, you can't really have a conference room in this day and age without a monitor and video conferencing and.
Technology, yeah.
With that too, I would like, once that's all done, we don't need to do it today, but I would like to make it so that the current conference room is not reservable from 11 to 1, so it can be used for eating.
Okay, what else does Carl have for us?
My other thing was just kind of a statement that I'm getting familiar with the county website. We did go out and update the HRA's information, or at least their contact information, so I sat in with Ashley and we did that. Still got a lot to learn in there. I think Jeff is also a good contact for learning about the website, so I'll be contacting Jeff here too. For that. Other than that, I didn't really have a whole lot of new items. Other than when I was at the AMC conference, it sure was an eye opener in a few things. One of the biggest things is I learned in the general government is that I feel the department heads need to come to the board and talk about other items that they see that are issues. You know, just within the assessor's office, I've been fighting with the Department of Revenue on a few items so long that, you know, you just feel like you're bashing your head against the wall. When in reality, sometimes the AMC could come in and just kind of be that outside and say, oh, well, there's a simple solution to it. Well, we'll just get this at it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, so I think there's a lot of probably opportunity for departments to at least let you guys know, here's some of the issues that we're dealing with. Maybe as the commissioners, you can go back to AMC and say, here's what we're seeing for issues and problems. Is there a solution, or is there something that our solution doesn't really work because in the past, these are the reasons it didn't work? I mean, sometimes that just needs to be the answer coming back to me.
You've seen the platforms and the priorities and things like that that come out of general government, you know, and you've noticed the mortgage registration and state deed tax.
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't there. I brought that to that committee and we pushed it through, and actually there's revenue that we get out of that. Okay, and county program aid and, you know, all of everything that's in some of that packet that you get, and you took some of them. So you got, you know, you can actually make copies. Did you take everything that was there, that was on the back table there?
I don't think there were one or two that I did not take.
Okay,
But
well, I think I grabbed the issue, but so I can leave it with you, but yeah, that's in my opinion where, you know, you're as department heads and assessors and recorders and, you know, that you can get the connection there. And I apologize if, you know, I could be going up there and, you know, making copies and handing them out to everybody and, you know, so I mean, that's kind of our role as commissioners is to let department heads know, you know, and I have been, you know, when Pat Solberg was there and, you know, Diane Geezy and things like that, that's when all that come to fruition years back. It just, once you get into a certain category and say it's listed and you move forward and you've sold the product and things like that, then I move on to something different. Much like I did, you know, on Friday for charitable gambling. So, And you can tell, you know, Becky Young expounded on that, you know, with Armor radios and where we're at, and. You know, so there's some of the stuff that AMC, they kind of want to know ahead of time, whether they'll even take it on or even have the time for it. So that's kind of where that is. But I got more stuff. I got more of those copies of those spreadsheets. You took one, so you can just scan it and make copies if somebody wants it. Right?
Other committee reports?
Well, one thing I'd like to see is that was brought up during the budget discussion is a purchase approval process of how we do that. And I'm gonna lay out like a basic guideline that let's amend as needed is, if it's under $5,000 in the budget, the department head can just purchase it. If it's between 5 and 20,000, the coordinator can approve it. Above that, it needs to come to the board. Now, this is for things that are in the budget. And it's somewhere to start that conversation. Maybe the board doesn't feel we need anything. I got something, I agree with you, Troy, but when I was a department head, I think it was the $5,000 deal. We'd always come to the board and tell them we wanna purchase a squad, and I think, you know, that was okay. I mean, I wanted to do that. So I just don't know that we have any formal process. So let's ask Carl to, you know, maybe we wanna talk to department heads and get their input on those dollar figures.
So you could add that, I agree with you, Troy, add that to your things to do list, your honey-do list. That's a good point. Yeah, other committee reports?
I got one, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Okay, I was at the public safety committee there down at AMC and Alec there. You know, they set forth a few things that they want to work on. The number one was funding to address mental health and care for youth and adults that are in the juvenile justice system.
Yeah.
Because it's a real, they're in jail when they shouldn't be, is what they're saying. Okay, so they're working on that, and they're supporting funding, you know, continued funding for next gen and Armor radios. The third support would be for the improve the fund and maintain emergency medical services across the state. You know, and we did give that presentation in front of the commissioners down there. And
pretty well received.
Yeah, and then there was a couple of them that wanted follow-up stuff, so Spock and I did that. So that was well received. And then, you know, I talked about the probation funding that we got, you know. There's 5 counties and we were definitely the winners, but some counties did not get full funding. And so they're working on that. But I didn't speak up and say anything because they said, well, the head of the Department of Corrections was there. And he said, well, some counties were winners. And I just looked at Donnie Woolard and I said, well, we were winners on that one, weren't we, Donnie? You know, because we were all pulling over 100,000 in there, you know, guaranteed for a few years. So anyway, that's what I did down there. It was it was a good conference.
Other committee reports? Anything else, Carl? Otherwise, I'll adjourn the meeting at 11:14.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
You have your sister's funeral? That went okay, a lot of people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was Saturday.
that was it, yeah.
That's the one about it.
I liked it.